You've been lied to. Not by some shady supplement company, not by a fad diet guru, by your own brain. It told you that losing weight is about diet and exercise. It's not. Those two things combined make up maybe a quarter of the equation. Another quarter is sleep. And the biggest chunk, the other half, is something so simple it sounds like a joke. Actually doing what you said you were going to do. That's it. That's the secret nobody wants to hear, because it's not a secret at all. But stick with me, because once you understand why this is true, you'll have an almost unfair advantage over everyone still bouncing between diets that never stick. It starts with a spark, something that makes you decide, today's the day. Maybe it's a photo where you didn't recognize your own face. Maybe it's watching someone else walk into a room looking like a completely different person than they were a year ago. That spark feels powerful. It feels like it's going to carry you through months of discipline. It won't. Inspiration has a shelf life of about 24 hours, and then it evaporates, leaving you exactly where you started, unless you've already built something to catch you on the way down. What catches you is a goal you can actually measure, with a deadline attached to it. Not I want to get healthier. That's a wish, not a goal. I'm losing 5 pounds by the 1st of next month, and 5 more the month after. That's something real. Something you can check yourself against. But a goal without a plan is just a nice sentence. The plan has to be specific enough that you could hand it to a stranger and they'd know exactly what to do. Swap your usual breakfast, the cereal, the toast, the sugar-loaded granola for a short jog and a plate of eggs and berries. That one change, just that single swap, is enough to strip real weight off your body within a few weeks. Not because it's magic, but because it quietly removes hundreds of calories a day without you having to think about it constantly. Here's the part almost everyone skips. Though, having the plan means nothing if you haven't made it the path of least resistance. Boil the eggs the night before. Set out your running shoes. Because if you wake up and the easiest, closest, most available option is still the sugary cereal sitting at eye level in the fridge, you haven't actually committed to anything. You've just scheduled a future disappointment. If the junk food is still easy to reach for, some part of you is planning to fail before you've even started. Even with everything set up perfectly, there will be moments that test you. You'll be starving, staring at a menu where every single item breaks 1,000 calories, and your brain will hand you an excuse on a silver platter. One bad meal won't matter. I'll really start tomorrow. I'll just skip eating later to even it out. Every single one of those thoughts has derailed more diets than any craving ever has. That's where willpower comes, in the simple, unglamorous ability to say no to yourself. You can train it the same way you train anything else. Rehearse the excuses your brain is going to throw at you before they show up for real, and practice shutting them down. Practice literally walking away from the thing that's tempting you. But don't lean on willpower as your main strategy, because it runs out. It's a muscle, not a bottomless well. The smarter move is almost always just staying away from the temptation in the first place. The real cheat code, the thing that eventually makes all of this effortless, is repetition long enough that it stops being a choice. Once your body wakes up and just goes for a jog without a debate. Once your hand reaches for the eggs and berries automatically. Once the plan runs on autopilot. That's the finish line that actually matters, not a number on a scale, but the point where the healthy choice stops requiring effort at all. Some people get so far down this road that eating well and moving their body isn't even a lifestyle anymore. It's just who they are. Now let's talk about the mechanics, because understanding why this works makes it 100 times easier to stick with. You can't accurately track fat loss day to day. Progress photos and a weekly scale check are the closest you'll get to the truth. And here's something nobody tells you. You might not see anything in the mirror for weeks, sometimes months, because your body tends to burn fat first from places you can't easily see. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, the visible progress starts showing up fast. As for the scale, weigh yourself often, but judge your progress by the weekly average, not the daily number. Because water retention and sodium and a dozen other factors will make the number bounce around even when you're doing everything right. The actual science underneath all of this is simple. Eat fewer calories than your body burns, and it will pull the difference from stored fat. If your body burns 2,000 calories a day and you eat 1,700, that 300 calorie gap gets filled by fat and a small amount of muscle, which is why some strength training matters too. Drop the number lower, down to 1,500 or 1,200, and you'll lose weight faster, but you'll also make the whole process much harder to sustain and much easier to quit. You can find your starting number using any calorie calculator online. Just be honest about how sedentary you actually are. But treat that number as a first guess, not gospel, because everyone's metabolism is different, and hormonal issues can shift things significantly in either direction. The real method is to start there, track your weight for a couple of weeks, and adjust. If nothing's moving, cut another couple hundred calories or add more activity, and repeat until the trend line moves the direction you want. If you want precision, you'll need to actually track what you eat nutrition labels, a calorie app, maybe a food scale. It's tedious, but it works because it removes guesswork entirely. If you'd rather estimate, you can get away with it, but only if you round aggressively. Guess 300 calories. Call it 500. Guess it's small enough to ignore, and it's still probably 50 calories you forgot about. If counting isn't for you, there's a simpler path. For most people trying to lose weight, only two things really matter: total calories and enough protein. Everything else can flex. Just watch out for calorie-dense extras, like oils, dressings, nuts, and cheese healthy in small amounts, but so calorie-dense that a single handful can undo half your deficit for the day. And when people say carbs are the enemy, they don't mean fruit, vegetables, or whole grains. They mean the heavily processed stuff, stripped of nutrients and loaded with sugar, engineered to be impossible to stop eating. You can still lose weight eating those foods every day, technically, but you'll be hungry constantly because they don't fill you up the way real food does. Which brings us to the actual trick for losing fat without ever counting a single calorie. Swap processed food for minimally processed food. Fruits, vegetables, lean protein, whole grains, healthy fats. These foods are so filling relative to their calorie count that you end up in a deficit almost by accident, without the constant hunger that usually sabotages people. Stop snacking outside of meals unless it's genuinely fruit or vegetables, because most snacking isn't hunger, it's boredom, stress, or thirst wearing a disguise. Drink more water, since half the time your body confuses thirst for hunger anyway. Avoid drinking your calories, since liquid sugar goes down far too easily. Eat 3 to 5 meals a day so you're never running on empty long enough to crack. Eat more protein, since it keeps you full longer and costs your body extra energy just to digest. And when you slip up, because you don't treat it as permission to abandon the whole plan. One-off meal was never going to ruin anything. Quitting is the only thing that actually does. Add movement on top of all this, and it accelerates everything: lifting weights to protect your metabolism, walking more, adding some cardio you don't dread. None of it replaces the diet piece, but it makes the whole process noticeably easier. And underneath every bit of this sits sleep, quietly running the hormones that determine whether any of the rest of it actually works. Skip it, and you're fighting yourself the entire way. Protect it, and everything above gets easier by default. None of this is complicated. It was never about finding some secret formula. It's about building a system simple enough that following through becomes the easiest option available, and then actually following through.